This program, of course, is presented by Pro Wrestling Illustrated, the most widely read, widely sold, and respected wrestling magazine in the world today.
All right, this is the Pro Wrestling Illustrated podcast. I am your host, PWI senior writer, Al Castle. Joined as always by my co-host, Brian Solomon. How's it going?
Going very well. Thanks for having me again, Al. Glad to be here as always.
Yes, and it's a special occasion. We're talking WrestleMania, and for the special occasion, a special guest, PWI contributing writer, Jason McVeigh, joins us again. How are you?
I'm good, sir. Privileged to be here as always. Thank you.
Where do you put the chances of a WrestleMania being anywhere near you in the next few years? Because I guess it's been talked about, right?
It has been talked about. I guess, I don't know. It's going to be in Saudi Arabia next year, so I guess that's another continent. So that's a good start, maybe. I don't know.
Moving in the right direction. I guess.
It's a little too far one direction, but maybe someday.
Did you ever think that it would be in Saudi Arabia first in your wildest dreams?
No, I did not. I thought surely London would get it before Saudi Arabia.
Before Saudi Arabia.
Well, we'll see. I mean, we had a little bit of that conversation last week with Mike, but I think all that's somewhat up in the air. Is there? Would you travel for it? I mean, I don't know how much you want to go to a live Mania, but is there a distance for which you'd consider it?
I would try the east coast of the US would be a start. I could go there. Mainland Europe, yes, I'm all for. Middle East, Asia, maybe not so much. Yeah.
Well, keep your fingers crossed. Anyway, before that, we got a WrestleMania this year, just days away as we are recording this, and we are going to get into all of it. The real sort of peculiar build. I mean, that's the word that comes to mind to this year's WrestleMania, and certainly a lot of thoughts about what's going right, what's going wrong, what's behind maybe some of the issues at play here, and we'll dig into all of it. And as much as we can dig into all the matches, I'm sure we'll spend more time on some than others, give predictions, and maybe talk about our plans to watch it. I will not be going for the first time in a long time, but am going to try to do something to make it special. Before that, let me tell you about the latest issue of Pro Wrestling Illustrated. I got in my mailbox last week featuring AEW World Heavyweight Champion MJF, who retained over the weekend. I got an opportunity to talk to Max for this issue. A lot of fun. Talked to Mike a little bit last week about how it could sometimes be challenging to talk to Max, and it's not the first time I've done it, but this time around, I've got to say, even though, I mean, the whole sort of like idea was him being upset of being left out of most hated wrestler of the year discussion last year. So in one sense, very much in character, but I've also sensed since I first interviewed him years ago, a maturity, there. And, while we're talking about the issue, maybe it's an opportunity to talk about how he's doing as AEW World Champion and how AEW is doing. And, there's a lot of talk that at the same time, the WWE's trajectory may be on the downslide. AEW's is on the come up, and how much does Max have to do with it? I think he's doing a terrific job. I think with, all the kind of start and stop over the last year plus with their world champions. And every time you sort of like felt like you were getting behind something, they would shift over, whether it was Danielson or it was Swerve or it was Hangman. All of those were cut short. The only really prolonged world title run we've had in the last few years was Moxley, and it was the one that we didn't want. And I mean, I guess I can't speak for everybody, but certainly I thought it took way too long. Max makes all the sense in the world. I mean, I think there were so many detours over the last few years, whether it was the babyface run that, mixed reviews and kind of went nowhere because of Adam Cole's injury, and then the comedy stuff with Lashley and taking some time away for movies and stuff. Now we've got, I think, like the best form of Max, a sinister scumbag world champion taking shortcuts to beat all challengers, and along the way putting on fantastic matches. I mean, like I didn't watch the whole show. I watched the main event of the pay-per-view, and I thought his match with Omega was just terrific, you know, and I think it's more of what I like to see out of AEW. I'll take a pass on his last pay-per-view main event, which again involved syringes and broken light tubes and all that stuff. So there's a mouthful. I'll ask you, Jason, you know, what do you think of the job Max is doing as champion?
I think he has been doing a very, very good job. And as I wear my Hangman Page t-shirt, pains me to say that Max has been a much better champion, which I think is kind of what AEW is. It's very much the old Crockett territory. I mean, if you look at WWE right now, you've got two babyface world champions. AEW seems to get into a better gear whenever they have a strong heel world champion. The Moxley stuff maybe aside on that one. I think MJF has been terrific. This is what he is great at. This, you know, being the really, really condescending heel that he is, but he's added a real aggressiveness to it, I think, as well, that is kind of serving him really, really well in this. So I think he's doing a terrific job. His matches are really good, maybe the best kind of in-ring work he's been doing in a long time. And already, like, you know, he won the championship at the end of December. He's already had something like 8 or 9 title defenses. So, you know, maybe come PWI 500 time, not to get ahead of ourselves, but I think he stands a good chance of being in there early.
Yeah, totally agree. I hadn't even thought about that, but you know, he joked about how he wants to be in the running for most hated wrestler in this interview with him, but he brought up the 500 as well, and I think as a shoot that would mean a lot to him and would solidify. You know, I think also, and in terms of like that maturity that I've sensed from him. I think it is dawning on him, and it should, that he's now, I don't know if he's there yet, but he's approaching 30, right? So like,
I think this year.
So you go from being kind of like, you know, the new young guy who's got all the time in the world, and he's still young in the sport, but it's like this needs to be and should be your prime years, and I think he's sensing that. And I think it's all good because I think we're getting incredible work out of the guy. I think he's got himself in really great shape. How about you, Brian? I mean, what do you think the job of he's doing?
Yeah, I think he looks great, and he's at his peak right now, at least is where he's been so far. Like you said, I think he's about to hit his stride here, really. I mean, these are the prime years, the 30s, really. Although these days I feel like it's the 40s. I don't know. But traditionally, the 30s are really your prime years as a wrestler. And, you know, he's had his ups and downs, I think, with the creative, like we've said, in the company, but I never feel like it's his fault. I think he's a great all-around talent. He could do whatever they ask him to do. He's a great talker. He keeps in shape. His matches always deliver, and he just needs the right stuff happening around him. I still feel like the stuff he did with Punk is probably the best stuff that AEW has ever done, period. And, you know, he's been a part of a lot of great things. When he was away for a while and there was that whole bidding war, supposedly, whatever it was that was going on, it felt like around there before and even immediately after, like he'd kind of lost his way a little bit in terms of, you know, with all the Adam Cole stuff, which was so head scratching. And then I think when he first came back, I felt like it took him a while to kind of click and figure out what he was going to be doing and really kind of get his look right again. And I think he's right where he needs to be right now. He's their most still, I feel, most dependable and coveted kind of talent that they have. As the best compliment I can give is anybody among anyone they have there right now, he's probably the person that WWE would want the most. And I think that's about as big of a compliment as you could give.
Yeah, I agree. And there is the possibility that by the time people are listening to this,
oh yes,
he is no longer.
Actually, yes, I wanted to lead with that because there's a lot of rumbling that he's going to lose the title this week to Darby Allin, and it seems like there's a really good chance. So we may sort of look dumb when this comes out and he's already not the champ.
What would you think of that as a decision? Darby, you know, a lot of what we're saying about Max goes for Darby as well, and you know, they used to talk about whatever was the 4 pillars, and the idea is these homegrown guys who had really kind of matured in AEW and become a bona fide stars. For what it's worth, and I got a kick out of this. I've mentioned that AEW comic that was AEW and DC team up. Darby was teamed up with Batman, so that shows you like how special they think a Darby is, and for good reason. I mean, the guy really is a star. I think,
or maybe they just think he's Robin. You know?
Yeah, right. There are some jokes about that in there too. I mean, I don't think he checks all the boxes that Max does, but he checks some that Max doesn't. What would you think about them going that direction?
I think that he would be a good feel-good short-term title change. I don't see him as the person that they want to hang things on. I think he's better as kind of like this wild card outsider, you know, type of attraction guy with the high risk and everything. And he has this natural charisma. I just don't know if he's the guy that you want to make the guy. Like, I could see it being a switch and then he loses it back at some, you know, not too far down the road. I just don't, I'm hoping that they're not looking to go like a totally different road. I don't know if that would be the smartest thing.
Yeah, I agree. And it reminds me a little bit of, you know, maybe when Rey Mysterio was world champion.
It's a good example.
WWE, you know, where feel good, but there was also these realistic limitations of like, well, are you going to have Rey, you know, beat Brock Lesnar or a bunch of other guys? And it's not quite the same with Darby, but the point being, he's sort of undersized. He's an underdog. And I mean, are you really going to, which to your point, doesn't mean you can't put it on him for a few months and then get it back on MJF. And you know, I feel like we've been saying this for years, but I would think that the eventual plan is Wembley Stadium and Will Ospreay. Sorry, name skipped me for a second.
He's the kind of person that you can plug in there if you want to keep things interesting, you know, so that it's not the same person winning every match, but it's not necessarily that you're shifting gears, you know, like he's almost like a Kerry Von Erich or a Ron Garvin. Yeah. You know, it's Ric Flair is still the man very much, but this is done to sort of shake things up a little bit.
Yeah. You know? Jason, a bigger picture, what are your thoughts on how AEW has been doing the last few months? And there's at least a perception out there that they've got the momentum, and, you know, how much is that they're doing good? How much of that is that WWE is in particular doing bad? But what do you think of the product in recent months?
I have to say I've enjoyed it in recent times, and I haven't always been the biggest AEW fan. I really haven't. Recently, I think they have had a renewed focus on what they do best, which is the in-ring stuff. You know, their last few pay-per-views have all been very, very good, top to bottom. You know, you can argue about the length of them and the number of matches and stuff on there, but it's quality stuff. They have an unbelievably talented roster. Too many people, maybe, is the problem with that. Yeah. But I think they're doing a good job of getting the people into the main kind of stories and the main matches that they need to. And, you know, the fact that WWE has been on this hot streak for so long and is now starting to slow down, that should be motivating everybody in AEW, you know, behind the scenes to, okay, let's put our best foot forward here and keep pushing. And, you know, we'll have a big Wembley show in the summer. And if we can get as much momentum as we can going into that, you know, they could set themselves up really well.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to be riding high when WWE is sort of tailing off a little bit. It's another thing to do that during WrestleMania season. I mean, it's really crazy that, and I'm not going to, you know, say that AEW's got all the buzz right now in the bigger kind of wrestling universe, but I think they've got considerable buzz at a time where, you know, they struggle to get attention over WrestleMania season. I feel like a lot of people are talking about how AEW is doing right now. And I do think that there's we've talked about this in recent weeks, there's a real opening, and AEW made a name for itself. You know, when they launched, their timing was really good because WWE was so bad back then. I mean, if this was kind of like the Fiend era, remember, and how terrible some of that booking was. And so putting yourself out there as the alternative to WWE was a good thing because you were the alternative to something bad. And then WWE got really good for a number of years, and being the alternative to this really good product, you know, what did that mean? there's another opening here now. It feels like it, and I do think that they need to strike while the iron is hot. And I think MJF is as a good person to get behind as anyone. So anyway, pick up the issue. Lots more in here. We've got features about Killer Cross and Scarlet over at MLW, about Aaron Wolf in Japan. Kristen put together a really fun thing about mothers in wrestling right in time for Mother's Day. I think we're going to try to get her on to talk about that. I think it's a fun idea. Ethan Page, lots more. Pick it up, pwi-online.com. Subscribe while you're there. You can dig into back issues. You can subscribe to Jason's newsletter. Right? You're still putting together the PWI Weekly?
Yes, still putting together the PWI Weekly along with Kevin and trying to get as much fun stuff in there. Occasionally we get Matt Brock on board as well, just to give his thoughts on certain things. And there's not a lot he enjoys these days.
Yeah, I don't think he thought like 40 years after he first started doing the weekly newsletter, he'd still be at this. Anyhow, let's talk some WrestleMania, guys. We'll dig into a match by match as much as we can, but we got to talk sort of big picture, and this kind of dovetails with what we were just discussing. Brian, the last few episodes we've expressed some concerns about the direction WWE was going, and why it was especially concerning coming over WrestleMania season, where you typically see WWE's creative kind of put their best foot forward. Since then, we got the Pat McAfee angle. So I mean, if our concerns weren't pronounced enough. I mean, this is, and I don't think I am being hyperbolic. I mean, some of the worst WWE storytelling in many, many years. I mean, this is really, really bad stuff.
Especially
almost
for
universally.
Yeah, especially for a main event. I don't even know where to begin. The thing about it is, none of this needed to happen. I mean, I wouldn't, from the beginning, I never felt Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton was the hottest WrestleMania main event. I mean, it just sort of feels like when I told my 22-year-old son who loved Randy Orton as a kid that Randy was in the main event of WrestleMania, he was like, what? He's still around? So I mean, I can understand how that match needs a little finesse, but they had there were many more easy options than what they're doing here. I don't know, because you always get these people that come out there and go, yeah, well, Pat McAfee's pissing people off. That's what he's supposed to do, and he's really good at being a heel. And I think you got to be able to tell the difference between when it's working and when something's just bad. And I think the problem is he's not really getting any kinds of reactions. The biggest problem they had, the one thing I will give him credit for, is he got the fans to actually boo Randy Orton on the last show. I will say that, which has been, as a fan, I don't know why I let these things bother me, but it really has been bothering me that no matter what he does, everybody's just on Randy's side and hating Cody. And you can say what you want, but it's like, that can't possibly be what WWE wants, So that I'll give him. But, it feels to me like you can feel the panic.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't be able to feel that. You could feel them tweaking with it week by week. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do?
Freaking out. Yeah.
You could feel the puppet master strings moving, and you never should be able to see and feel that stuff. And it feels like they're just going by the seat of their pants, and it's almost like they're just letting everybody just say whatever they feel like saying. Punk is coming out there and saying things which
they're trashing their own product.
I'm not
right.
I'm not somebody that's easily worked, but there's some things coming out of people's mouths that I can't imagine were okayed ahead of time. I just can't. CM Punk calling him Pat McAfee and talking about lowering the ticket prices. Like, on what planet would that have been a direction they wanted to go in? And that doesn't even have anything to do with the Orton and Cody feud. It's almost like it's all over the place. And then some people are saying, well, this is the start of they're going to do a big feud between WWE and TKO, to which my response is, don't even say that out loud, because you might make it happen. And if that's where they're going, I don't even know what to say.
Here's my other thing.
Right, but here's my other thing. And guys, tell me what you think about this. I felt like we finally moved past the era where everything was about how the Attitude Era was so much better. I felt like we finally turned the corner. We did the Bloodline, we did Roman Reigns. Now we had a new thing that people could be nostalgic for, and we'd move past it. Not to mention, as Cody Rhodes was so kind to inform everyone, it was 30 years ago. Why are we still doing this? Or even if we say 25, the average young fan, like, what are they thinking watching this? That's why when McAfee came out and cut that promo at first, it was like silence, just silence. And half these people weren't born when the things you were talking about were happening. Like, why would we go back to longing for this? We're saying that WWE television was so much better before any of you guys were born. Like, what is the end game of that? It's just a mess.
It would have been stupid at any time, but it's something that at least would have had like a kernel of truth in the ruthless aggression era.
Yeah, there were times when it was true, even though I kept saying, why say that out loud on television, though, even if it's true.
But Cody Rhodes has been one of their biggest drawing top stars in years. I mean, like, it just doesn't ring true. I mean,
and he even said that in his promo.
Winning product.
He said it in the promo where, I almost feel like they just sort of, again, let him just go out there and say what's in your heart. And he basically contradicted the entire angle that they were trying to do. Or he even said something like that in the promo. He said, Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton. It's a layup. We have all this history. It's a great wrestling match. And, meanwhile, like, I led the company to all these things, record-breaking numbers, but like, what are you guys talking about? You know what I mean? If anything, it makes people, I don't know, it gives people the wrong idea. Look, as much of a bubble as we're in, the average fan, especially if they're not going to shows, if they're just watching every week, they don't know that the ticket prices are out of control. They don't. A lot of people may be pissed off about it, but they just put that thought in people's heads now. Oh, it's a greedy company that's overcharging people for tickets. Why do those things? Instead of doing that, how about you just quietly lower the prices?
Yeah, it's incredible, and I got a lot of thoughts. I mean, I agree that it does feel like they're in freak out mode, and the criticism begins with them sort of finding themselves in this position through, I think, a lack of long-term vision or what have you. I mean, the Cody Drew stuff was poorly timed, went too long, and then peaked right before the WrestleMania build, and so they found themselves at the beginning of WrestleMania season kind of without a main event. Now, they deserve criticism for that. That said, if you find yourself in that spot, Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes is a pretty good spot to be in terms of, I mean, if you got to grab a WrestleMania main event out of your back pocket, it's a good one because, as you said, there's so much history here. Something I had not realized or forgotten that I think Cody touched on is that Randy had Dusty Rhodes' last singles match. Dusty Rhodes' last singles match was against Randy Orton. And then obviously there's the legacy stuff and 20 years of real history here. And out of the gate, they hit a home run angle with that first week beatdown of Randy on Cody. That really worked. And the social media metrics were through the roof. And then Pat McAfee becomes the centerpiece of it. And then they bring in Jelly Roll. And it's like, and now the I've been watching, just for nostalgia, a lot of like WrestleMania 2 hype. I was like 8 when WrestleMania 2, and it was the first WrestleMania that I was really excited over because I only got into it sort of like right after WrestleMania 1. But for WrestleMania 2, like I was like really pumped. And you watch the hype for that, and the matches are almost secondary. It was about William the Refrigerator Perry being in a battle royal, and about Burger King's Herb being a timekeeper, and Joan Rivers and Susan St. James and Elvira. I mean, the whole show was like promoted around that, and it flopped. And what was clear was that they were sort of like starstruck with like getting some attention and the fact that they could do business with these celebrities. And it kind of feels like that again. It's like between Jelly Roll and Pat McAfee and I Show Speed and who's a Little Yachty, and
boy, that one's really got my head spinning. No one cares. I mean, look, I'm not. I know I'm old and out of touch. Whatever. I had a vague idea of the name. I knew he was a rapper. This is not like nobody cares. The audience couldn't care less.
I mean,
not to mention that he just comes off as ridiculous. That like he's
bad.
supposed to be cool.
It's fantasy camp. Yeah,
he's with Trick Williams, and Trick Williams has this vibe of being super cool, and he's
making him less cool.
And he's making him less cool, right? He is. You're looking at this guy like, who is this guy? And we have nobody like Herb this year. That's a shame. Elusive Burger Man.
Yeah, nobody remembers Herb.
But they were overloaded with celebrities that year. They had G. Gordon Liddy come out. Yes. I still don't know what that was all about. But yeah, the Jelly Roll thing, man, it's like, at least, you talk about Mr. T, you talk about Mike Tyson, you talk about Dennis Rodman. They brought an
audience.
Right, but I'm not even talking about the audience. You got, and Dennis Rodman, those are people you could buy in a physical scenario. Jelly Roll, he's a singer, he's a rapper. He is not an athlete. He does not look like a healthy man. God forgive me. Like he was very overweight, and then he lost all the weight, and he just looks frail and not strong and uncomfortable. And he's running out there.
Good for him, right? For like getting in great.
Congratulations,
weight, fantastic. Yeah.
But when he's running out there as Cody's backup, like, what are we doing at this point? What are we doing? Yeah. I might as well have me run out there as Cody's backup.
And to that point, and I think it's important to say this, and this goes for both Jelly Roll and Pat McAfee. They're doing a fine job with what they're given. I think like they're giving a really good effort, and it goes for McAfee too. I think he's like executing the lines and the characters, the character that he's given as best he could. I think Jelly Roll is showing like a lot of passion. But it's just it doesn't make any sense, and
you're right about
nobody wants to see it.
Jelly Roll, you're right about that. Like he is remarkably good in the promos and things. He seems really invested. He's not like a lot of these. We talk about a lot of these modern celebrities. Like they're really on board. They're not slumming. They're not, yelling at their agent between takes on the phone. Yeah. They're on board, and he's good. I mean, as far as the promo stuff, he's better than some of the wrestlers are. Yeah. But that's really probably all he should be doing. Yeah.
He is. But on SmackDown, on this past SmackDown, Jelly Roll was there, and he was angry about what McAfee had did, and he was threatening McAfee, and then he almost threatened Nick Aldis and was like coming off as this real badass against, a former NWA world champion, and they were almost portraying it like, oh, Nick Aldis better watch out on Jelly Roll. It's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, it looks ridiculous.
I like to think my 9-year-old daughter is a good litmus test for this kind of stuff. She understood that Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes used to be friends, and then Randy betrayed him and beat him up, and that was enough. Right. She has no idea why Pat McAfee is now involved, why an occasional commentator is all of a sudden angry about things and attacking Cody Rhodes. And if you can't explain it easily to a 9-year-old, you shouldn't be doing it.
So let me tell you, I'm very proud of my son. I'm going to just brag about one thing as far as what he's picking up, because he watches this with me. When they did the thing when Randy turned, I remember Pete said to me, well, a few weeks ago, I remember that Randy Orton said to, I think, who is it? Sami Zayn. He goes, Randy said to Sammy that, sometimes you got to look out for yourself and stab people in the back. And I guess he must have followed his own advice. And I remember going like, yeah, you're picking up on the little storytelling seeds that they're planting there. But that's when they're actually doing good stuff and not just like panicking like they are now. Well, but to your point, Al, it was working up to a certain point.
Yeah, and then they took this sharp turn. And Jason, let me ask you that. So I want to go to you about what's going on here. I mean, what is behind this? There's all kinds of conspiracy theories about, some people think Vince McMahon is back. Some people think this is the result of Vince McMahon not being there. The one, and these are not necessarily mutually exclusive. The one thing that's been reported that certainly seems to make a lot of sense is a lot of butting in, a lot of involvement by TKO executives who are, don't get the wrestling business and are more likely to be sort of like enamored with celebrity and thinking of sort of synergy with ESPN and Pat McAfee. And it's a shame because in all these cases, we've seen Pat McAfee be really good and really contribute to the product. His angle with Gunther last year, I thought was top notch. And when he came in to save Michael Cole. And I thought they had a really good match. And McAfee's had really good matches. And Jelly Roll at SummerSlam last year, teaming with Randy, was also really good. I mean, I thought like that was one of the highlights of SummerSlam. And they took, and this is sort of the story of WWE in recent months, they took this goodwill with both these celebrity acts and completely squandered it. And to now that they're sort of like both public enemy, you know, number 1 and 2, and I think fans just sort of resenting them for messing up the WrestleMania main event. As I asked, what do you think is going on here?
I think the roots of this could be traced back to the day that they announced that we're going back to Las Vegas for a second time. And in the aftermath, no one bought tickets in the same way that they did the first time around. There was diminishing returns on this. And I think it's all kind of born out of a panic of what can we do to spice this up, even if it doesn't make sense. Oh, Pat McAfee has a huge following. Jelly Roll has a huge following. Little Yachty might have a huge following. Let's get as many of these people in here as we can and hope that their audience migrates to this and can kind of prop this up. I think there is a lot of meddling from the TKO side. And you mentioned earlier on, I think it was Brian said about, you know, why are you talking about, you know, lowering ticket prices and promos and stuff? Part of me wonders, is that like the traditional wrestling guys in the office, like the Triple H or the Bruce Pritchard or whoever, almost sticking at the TKO a little by saying, we're going to mention this because maybe we don't agree with this? Because for all of his worlds of faults that Vince McMahon had, he really was a believer in that we're not going to gouge our own fans for this and charge ridiculous prices. And part of me wonders, is it his guys kind of getting back at TKO with that and sending a little bit of a message and saying, look, you guys need to listen to this. You know, we have an audience here and we're driving them off with this. So, and it's kind of like the thing, like whenever The Rock was involved in the run up to Cody winning the title at WrestleMania a few years ago, it seemed to change on a weekly basis and you didn't really know what you were going to get. And then last year there was the whole thing, the Cena run up to it, and the rapper whose name escapes me at the moment.
Travis Scott,
thank you, who was involved and then wasn't involved, and it was all very messy. It kind of feels like that again.
Yeah.
And that was The Rock, I think, at the time, you know, putting his 2 cents in and TKO getting involved. It feels the same way.
Well, they're kind of one and the same, right? I mean, the Rock and TKO, and there's some concern that some of that's happening here too. That how much of this is Dwayne Johnson's influence, and we've seen in the last few WrestleManias now, Dwayne's instincts being way off. I mean, remember a couple of years ago, he was ready to cancel Cody versus Roman at WrestleMania. So and he was a lot of the driving force behind Cena's really messy heel turn last year. So I don't know how much he's got to do with this. I could believe that his fingerprints are all over this.
Yeah. I've heard. Sorry, Brian. I was just going to say I've heard Triple H on 2 different podcasts this week say that the build up to WrestleMania is not as easy as people think it is, and things change. And he almost was implying that his best laid plans can be changed at a moment's notice by someone else. And I believe that's probably true.
There's a lot of, I think, behind the scenes conflict happening here. And I think it's been happening a long time. I think it goes back even before TKO took over with Vince versus Stephanie and Hunter. And there's been a lot of craziness going on. And I think it's closer to the surface now than ever. I think a lot of things, I'm sure we've all been reading and hearing things where it feels like there's a lot of discontent between people that are trying to run things and feeling like their hands are tied, or someone's going around their back. And it reminds me, I'm a big Cheers fan. It reminds me of when Rebecca bought the bar and Sam was trying to run the bar his way and things like that. That kind of thing, or Superman 4 when the sort of Rupert Murdoch type characters stepped in and bought the Daily Planet from Perry Mason. These are my very current references, everybody.
The quest for peace, yes.
Right? But I mean, that kind of thing where you just feel like there's a lot of grumbling behind closed doors. I bet a lot of angriness, anger and cursing and frustration. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's why we're seeing a lot of this disjointedness. Because you're right. It's like, especially around this time of year, they just swoop in and just screw everything up.
Yeah. And you know, it sort of makes me think of our old feature, and we've done it the last few years. I don't know what the plans are for it this year, but the real winners and losers of WrestleMania, and we haven't even had the show yet. So, but I'm already predicting some of these in terms of like real losers. Triple H is one, as you touched on, because I do think, for better or for worse, he's getting the blowback, and when you're, you know, the head of creative, you're the booker. People are going to look to you for everything that goes wrong, for right or for wrong. And it does feel like a lot of this is out of his hands. But more than that, Cody Rhodes, who now, I mean, like, you couldn't ask for more from your champion in terms of like the effort that he put out there, and what he did I mean, he really is he's not all of it, because Roman deserves a lot of the credit too. But he was a huge part in WWE, you know, reversing their fortunes and becoming a hot product, and was everything you want in a babyface champion and a legitimate star. And now 2 WrestleManias in a row, in this sort of like unenviable spot in a match that, you know, has got a lot going against it. I mean, last year there was at least, I think, some real anticipation with the Cena match. It just ended up being horrible, in part because of the execution and the booking. This year, people aren't even. I mean, I feel like there's, and this is almost what happened last year with Charlotte and Tiffany. That now they're sort of kind of a train wreck sort of like interest in what this is going to look like, because it's such a disaster. But I don't know that translates into business. It just makes, you know, it's something for the fans who are going to watch to sort of like enjoy on a different level. But a real mess of a match. As far as predictions, you know, McAfee has thrown in the stipulation that if Randy loses, McAfee disappears forever. At the same time, it's clear that, and I guess there's some reporting that they're building toward a tag match with Cody and Jelly versus Randy and Pat, which makes all the sense in the world for Backlash, which would suggest that Randy's going to win. But are you really going to beat Cody again, 2 WrestleManias in a row, and he just dropped the title a few months back to Drew? It just feels like, not that he couldn't survive it. I'm sure he could, but it would be, it wouldn't be a good thing to have on your resume, another WrestleMania loss.
No, and I saw something recently. I don't know if you guys saw this, where it really kind of threw me for a loop when you start thinking all these conspiracies are true about certain things, where something came out in one of the lawsuits. They were showing text messages between Triple H and Nick Khan and things like that led some people to believe that Vince was still somewhat involved with creative as recently as right before the Cena turn. And so, like, or maybe 22, 23. And it's almost like, it's kind of like this damning indictment, which is maybe everything creatively is because they can't keep the momentum going from that. Like, everything they had good that was going was the residual leftovers from when Vince was still there. You know, Cody and the bloodline and the story of Cody. And then once that ended, they went into the horribly messed up Cena heel turn. And now everything we've got going now, and the creative just being so chaotic and weird, and it almost makes you wonder, maybe they actually don't have their act together enough to follow up right now.
Yeah. Jason, any predictions for this match?
I've went back and forward on this one, and I think the point I'm at is where I think one of the world titles will change at WrestleMania, but I don't think both will. But I don't know which one is going to change. For me, the kind of worst case scenario is Cody takes another loss, the belt goes on Randy Orton, and then on the other night, Roman Reigns wins the top belt and then leaves for 2 months. And I was like, well, what do we build around here? Or who is carrying this thing for the next few months while that happens? So I don't know. They've kind of painted themselves into the corner with the Pat McAfee stipulation, especially if they're going to do the tag team match that you talked about. So probably Randy wins, but I don't know. I can't say for sure.
Yeah, I think Randy wins also. I mean, in as much as oh God, God forbid, but it does seem like we're early on in this storyline, right? Like there's a lot more to go, many more chapters to go in this. And clearly a tag match with Joey Roll and Pat McAfee would seem to be a follow up. If that's the plan, it makes sense that Randy would win. I mean, it would be wouldn't make a lot of sense to kind of cut the legs out of Randy and Pat's act, and then keep going with the storyline. So yeah, it certainly feels like Randy's winning his 15th world title.
I can imagine them both winning. Actually,
Me too, yeah.
like you guys are saying, Randy and Reigns winning. Like we were talking about, even I could totally see them doing Bloodline 2.0 and trying to recapture the magic of that, because it's now devolved into just the saddest of sad mid-card factions that they now have going with the MFTs. And I could kind of see that. And it is weird. I mean, Roman Reigns has not had a singles match in 6 months. And
wow, is that right?
October was the last one. It was Saudi Arabia in October. And he was in the Rumble. There have been a couple of things, like he was in War Games, I think, but a one-on-one match it's been since Saudi. And so, like, he hasn't even been doing anything in the ring to show what he's capable of. I mean, I think very often we expect too much from fans. I mean, to even invest in this match with Punk, they're just coasting on stuff that he did years ago. And it may not seem like that long ago to us, but it does to kids, that's for sure. And you got to think about stuff like that. You got to keep reminding people why they should care about these people, and taking 4 minutes to walk to the ring and looking at the crowd for another 5 minutes after that, and then barely speaking and twitching your face, for 10 minutes. That's not going to cut it forever. You gotta do more than that.
Well, devil's advocate to some extent here. Is that what makes Roman special, and what makes this a WrestleMania main event, and sort of the true WrestleMania main event, the night 2 main event, in that Roman does have that aura because he is the most exclusive of attractions, right? I mean, maybe more even than Brock Lesnar these days, as you touched on. It's such a rarity that you see him work, that it really is. And maybe we've talked about it here. It sort of reminds me of, like, what it meant to be a celebrity in the 70s and the 80s, and why, like, the Johnny Carson show was like a big deal, because you didn't see these stars otherwise. Now
on TV, right?
Yeah, now there's also not a great one. I mean, I would give it maybe a B, in that I think the promo work has been good. I don't know that I love the content of it. I mean, one guy, it's just a little lazy, like, oh, you're a part-timer, oh, you're old. There have been hints of stuff I like. I liked Roman. We're recording this on Tuesday. I liked Roman last night, sort of acknowledging that he resents Punk for having that connection with fans. And he doesn't, if I disappeared for 10 years, I'm not sure they'd be chanting my name for 10 years like they were you. I like that. I mean, I thought that was, candid I really dug that. And there's been other stuff, but it's been like they're sort of throwing everything at the wall, and some of it, lands and some of it doesn't. Got off to a terrible start with Punk talking about Roman's dead dad, which is just, so dumb. And
which they backtracked on massively.
Yeah, and out of character, and the follow-up since then, Punk's always good at making it about wrestling, right? And I think he's strayed from that a little bit too, but I think back to that first promo after being gone for 7 years on AEW, where his real priority was sort of like calling out Darby Allin, which was his first match. And I thought, that's so great. You just don't see that, I don't like that some of this has delved into some kind of the insider stuff too much, but I think they've kind of rode that line and have kept it enough on sort of like wrestling that I like it. I don't love it. How about you, Jason?
I have to say, I think I might dislike the build up to this more than the
Really?
Cody Rhodes Randy Orton, just because I really despise the whole worked shoot thing at this stage. It has been done to death by 100 different promotions, and there is no story to this match whatsoever. As ridiculous as the other one is, the Cody and Randy one, at least there's some kind of a story there. This one, not so much. I think what they did in Raw this week was the best thing they had done to this point, because it was really, I resent you and here's why. Well, yeah, I resent you and here's why. If they had gone that way from the start, instead of all of kind of this insider stuff and nudge, nudge, wink, wink, this is why I don't, I think it would have been better. But I have not enjoyed the build up to this. And it still kind of sticks with me that we saw a version of this last year, and it doesn't feel that special to see it again this year. So I don't know. I haven't enjoyed it, but I think the match will be good, I think. But the build-up hasn't been for me.
Well, I mean, I said something about this last night where I feel like I normally don't go in for this sort of thing, but these guys are both so good, especially Punk, that they could carry it. And I was sort of thinking, like, if these are the kind of guys that they hand a mic to and they let them talk and go on these promos and things, then I'm fine with it. It's when you have everybody else doing it too that I have a problem with. But even having said that, yes, it gets very repetitive. I hate you. No, I hate you. Oh, let's come out again next week. I hate you again, and here's why. I still hate you. Their problem is they have too much TV time to fill. I hate to say, they don't know what to do with all this time. I was just talking to someone about this where I said, look, I remember this so well because I was becoming a fan at the time of WrestleMania 3. Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, biggest WrestleMania match ever. What did they do? It was a series of Piper's Pits, basically. Do a series of pits. You build up to Andre turning heel through a series of pits. Then you have Hulk Hogan. He accepts the challenge. Then you do a few more pits. They're going to have the giant-sized belt made. You get Captain Lou out there begging Andre to reconsider. You do these little things, and then they meet in that Battle Royal on Saturday night's main event for like a split second. And you have the biggest main event in the history of WrestleMania. Yeah. It wasn't rocket science, but I think part of that is they had 2 hours of TV that they had to worry about each week and not 6 hours of television. What do you do with all this? How do you keep making it feel special? And so it does come down to, well, we just got to, I guess, have a lot of these long conversations, because how much could you really do? I feel like there needs to be more done than just people yelling at each other. There needs to be matches that somehow build into the story. If there's not matches, there needs to also be some type of shenanigans that happens outside the ring. I'm going to attack somebody that you're friends with, just something, instead of just, well, we're going to have another angry conversation. But they've done this many times before now. And it's a big problem. It's a problem.
We need somebody getting hit by a car.
Oh, no. I'm not saying that there needs to be vehicles involved.
No.
But it just goes to show that even when you have people that are as good as Punk and Reigns are, and they're very good, there's only so much you can ask them to do.
Well, the other thing that obviously hamstrings this match in a way that others aren't is that they're both ostensibly baby faces, right? So neither of them, you're not going to get the low blow or the underhanded thing. I mean, they're both attacking each other, but neither has kind of like the moral high ground here or anything like that. And it's always a challenge with especially two baby faces. And I think back to Hogan and Warrior in WrestleMania 6, which is the first babyface versus babyface WrestleMania main event, and it was still something of a novelty back then. And I think they ran into some of that stuff even back then. Here, it's like there's the further complication that they're also neither exactly baby faces either. It's just sort of like this muddy. I'd say Punk is more of a pretty traditional baby face. Yes. Roman is sort of kind of like the tweener, but the fans adore Roman Reigns. I mean,
right. The problem with Punk is that, he is more of a pure baby face, but because people love Reigns so much, by stepping to Reigns, Punk also becomes this ambiguous figure where a lot of people are booing him and cheering him. And you have to wonder at the end of the day, like the old traditional question, are they going to weaken one of these guys by doing this? I feel like Punk is the more vulnerable one of the two. There's some weird choices being made for sure.
And how do you work the match? I mean, maybe it's sort of, it doesn't have to be this sort of short-sighted, but who works as the heel, in the match, who is selling more and looking more vulnerable, that kind of thing. I don't doubt that they could have a really compelling match, but I do think you sort of touched on this. A lot of the ingredients that would make it more compelling or not there, as far as Paul Heyman and the bloodline. I mean, there was that 1 or 2 week angle with the Usos, which I thought was fine. I mean, I think it gave it a little more depth. But yeah, I mean, I've gotten my fill of them just kind of jaw-jacking at each other every week and then putting each other through tables. A little thing, this is sort of nitpicky, but I hated it, was Roman gave that opening promo showing the clips of Punk being hypocritical, and I liked some of that stuff. That was good. And then tagging it at the end, it was like, this message was brought to you by your
It was like the New World Order stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like, so out of character. And I immediately think, to Roman Reigns in like a recording booth recording that, and it's just like, ugh, like that. That's so not him. And I don't know whose idea that was.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of little stuff like that. And you do wonder, I don't know, there were some stories in recent weeks about some changes in creative, Road Dogg being out and somebody else being in, I think, on Raw. So there's this other element too, that it's like, is this just what happens when you've got different people making decisions? What else is on? I've got the whole card here. So, all right, so let's go through night 1, main event, Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes. Why don't we talk about Seth Rollins and Gunther? We touched on it a little bit in the last podcast, but here's another one that should feel bigger than it is, but like so many other things on this show, it feels thrown together, right? I mean, in the last minute, and the extent of it has been sort of like, I'll run out and beat you up every week, and because of that, it's supposed to feel like incredibly personal. They've added this little bit of kind of a wrinkle with now why is Gunther doing this and talking about a favor that he wants out of Heyman. I assume it's Brock Lesnar's retirement match is what he's going to want from Heyman, as a payoff later in the year. But that doesn't really do anything to build the storyline between Seth and Gunther. And in the ring, I don't doubt that these two could have a fantastic match. It almost feels like wasted because, we don't have the storyline. This could have and should have been a much bigger deal. What do you think, Jason?
I think this is one that WWE can be forgiven for, because I think the plan all along was obviously Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker. And then people started getting hurt, and Breaker got hurt, and even Bronson Reed got hurt, so you couldn't even do Bronson Reed and Seth Rollins. And then it was touch and go whether Seth was even going to be healthy enough to be back in time for this. So I think he pushed himself. So if you hadn't been so far down the road with the Obafemi and Brock Lesnar thing, I think the thing to do would have been Heyman to bring back Lesnar to, I'll find someone to take care of Seth Rollins. That would have made sense, and went with that. So I think they can be forgiven for not having much of a story here. But at the same time, what they did come up with in a few weeks has been nothing. Like, it really hasn't. Again, a great match that is suffering because of the lack of story involved.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and when they tried to explain it, it almost made it worse to me. I would almost, because look, I understand we've sort of painted ourselves into a corner here now where we need all these elaborate reasons for matches. There have been plenty of old school WrestleMania matches where it was just like, here's two big guys that are going to wrestle each other because you guys never get to see big guys wrestle each other on TV. But we're not in that era anymore, and there's more of an expectation because we can see matches like that every week now. I get it. But it just obviously came out of nowhere. Gunther, I'm going to attack you, and pointed a sign, and now we have a match. And then he came out and he tried to explain, well, the ring is sacred and you have disrespected it by doing this or that. And to me, it almost made it worse than if I just randomly attacked you, because it just seems like such a weird, flimsy reason that nobody could really relate to in any way. And I don't know. It's I'm sure it'll be a fine match. Just very another weak build.
Yeah. So the rest of night one, and I'll just go through it, and I don't know that we need to talk about all of these, but if anything jumps out, AJ Lee and Becky Lynch, I think real disappointing build. We talked a little bit about that. Not at all interested in that. 4-team women's tag team match. Nia Jackson, Lash Legend, defending against Charlotte and Alexa, the Bella Twins, and Bailey and Lyra. I'm surprised how much TV time this has gotten, but it's gotten a lot of TV time. We've got Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu, kind of the consolation prize for both of these guys who at some point were being talked about as potentially being the main event for the world title with Cody, and then Logan Paul, Austin Theory, and ISHO Speed versus the Usos and LA Knight. Another celebrity match there. I'll say the video they showed of ISHO Speed training on Raw, it's one of the best things I've seen building to WrestleMania. I thought that was really good, really effective, very kind of like old school, just showing him training and like getting better and learning moves and kind of developing a killer instinct. And my kid, I do know Speed because my kids watch him a little, and he's a funny guy. I mean, he's a real character, loves wrestling, really super athletic. I don't doubt he's gonna impress here. I don't know about opening match. They'll have the energy, the fans' excitement there. So we'll see. So and any thoughts on any of those, Jason?
I think I don't know if you mentioned it there. Liv Morgan and Stephanie Vaquer.
Yeah, you're right. Yep. That's the women's world title match. Yeah.
That one again is another strange one that had a strange build. I'm curious to see who wins in that one. I think I really like Stephanie's work, but it seems like they're probably going to go with Liv Morgan on this one. Where it goes from there, I don't know. The head collision that the two of them had on last week's Raw was one of the worst things I have ever seen on a wrestling pro. It was horrific. So the fact that the two of them are still able to compete just for a week later is impressive, and that no one has a concussion. I'll look forward to that one just because I like both ladies' work. Aside from that, there's not a ton of stuff jumps out. I think Drew and Jacob Fatu will have a good match. Probably deserved a bit more, and probably could have been something to do with the WWE Championship if treated differently.
Yeah, I think Drew really, again, thinking ahead to like the real winners and losers, it's really too bad. Drew was doing such great work, and if with a little more foresight, I do think Cody and Drew could have had a climactic match at WrestleMania. Drew coming in as the defending champion, Cody winning it back.
Right.
But they started it way back in the summer, I think, and by then they had so many matches you just couldn't drag it out that long.
Not only that,
so Drew ends up kind of on I don't want to say a nothing mid-card match, but
no, but it does feel like now looking at it in hindsight, it seems like Drew's entire title run and win, the only purpose of it was to build towards this mid-card match with Jacob Fatu, which I can't think of any other reason why they did it. And it feels a little weird. I will say, I think they're both great. And Drew is now approaching that upper stratus of like all-time great heel, like to me. Like he's in that discussion of the greatest heels of all time. Like he's that good. And Fatu is amazing. I think they're both very intense, and I have no doubt the match will deliver. The problem for me is, these things they do like lights out match in this era where every match, every show, people are trying to murder each other for 3 hours straight. Like, what does that even mean anymore? What are they going to do? Like, hit each other with bazookas? Like, what?
Break out the syringes.
What's going to happen?
AW syringe guy.
Right. It used to mean something. Oh my God, they're absolving themselves of all responsibility for this match. Well, then how do you explain all the other stuff that they do to each other in all the other matches? And one other thing I'll say, because you dumped a whole bunch of matches on us there, is I cannot think of anything that I want to see less. And I don't even just mean in wrestling, than AJ Lee versus Becky Lynch. Like, I just can't understand, Becky Lynch, sadly, who at one point, I feel like Becky Lynch at one time was more over than any other woman has ever been in a major wrestling
Oh, yeah.
company ever.
When she comes up in the Observer Hall of Fame voting, I don't know if I voted for her, but I'm on the fence because yeah, we forget now. It was at a time where WWE's business wasn't particularly hot, but yes, she was the top star in wrestling for a little while there.
Yes, for a very short time, and I can't believe where she's at now. And in the AJ thing, I feel like this was like a one-shot reappearance pop that they have now tried to milk into something where I think they're at the point now where I think even the fans don't even remember why they even were excited about her or this.
Yeah.
I just think it's just as dead as dirt.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think that's where WWE's really been kind of like off their game is the inefficiency with which they have dealt with a lot of angles and returns and things that should have been a big deal were they timed out right. And now, AJ Lee is just like another act. And does anybody care about this match? I mean, I think there's going to be zero heat for it. I can't imagine it's going to be very good. It's like this albatross on the whole card.
I think this is where you get into this problem of people who don't wrestle very often, and it's the same with Punk and Reigns. Wrestle a regular schedule.
Oh, sorry. Can you say it again? I think I muted you by accident. Go ahead. Do it again.
It's bound to happen at some point.
Just for a second.
I think this is the problem with people who don't wrestle a regular schedule. Your likes of your Roman Reigns or your AJ Lee or whoever. You're limited to what you can do with them physically. You know, in years gone by, you would have had Hogan and Macho Man teaming up, and then something happened, and then they had the huge fallout. You don't do that now because someone doesn't wrestle for 6 months, as Brian pointed out. You know, you don't wrestle a singles match. AJ Lee has barely wrestled since she came back, you know, and she won the Intercontinental title at Elimination Chamber, and I don't know if she's wrestled since. She may not have. So, like, you're painted into a corner with what you can do. Yeah. People stop caring then at some point.
And when I talked about, you know, letting people like Punk and Reigns do this sort of thing, when they had, I think it was a week or two ago, AJ Lee and Becky Lynch were doing it with the back and forth. And I'm just going, this is just really bad. This is really bad. Like, to the point where I can't even believe that this got allowed to be on TV bad, you know, and this is supposed, you know, doing nobody any favors here, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, almost unwatchable. Yeah. At its worst. So let's switch over to night 2. We've talked about Punk and Reigns, the women's world title match there. Jade Cargill and Rhea Ripley. We've got Finn Balor returning as the Demon, now as a babyface against Dominic Mysterio. U.S. Championship match. Sami Zayn defending against Trick Williams. I guess Little Yachty will be in Trick Williams' corner. Brock Lesnar and Oba Femi. We'll spend some time talking about that in a moment. And then how many people in this match? 5 or 6 way ladder match for the IC title. Penta defending against Javon Evans, Dragon Lee, Rusev, JD McDonough, and Rey Mysterio. So that's going to be the big kind of stunt high spot match, and that's going to be on ESPN. Let's talk a little bit about Brock and Oba Femi. You know, we said I think it is the one match really on the entire card over 2 nights that feels like a WrestleMania match, and they've gotten so much wrong. This has been almost note for note perfect, and watching Raw on Monday night where they put a microphone in Oba Femi's hands and just let him go. He was fantastic. I mean, I was so impressed by how good he was on the mic, and it's really tough even for veterans, when they're given scripted lines, to make it feel natural and like it's really them saying it. And I believed him through and through. I mean, I believed that was Oba Femi, speaking from the heart. I was so impressed with him. And again, this has been almost pitch perfect in my thoughts.
Yeah, it does. Let me tell you, if they had the nerve, and if there weren't, I'm sure, lots of politics involved, and if this was sort of a Vince deal where it's somebody who is just basically like one man's decision, one person's decision, I think this would have been the year to call an audible like they did with Hulk Hogan and Sid Justice, where you just say, this is our main event, and I don't care what you
Yeah.
guys think. This is the main event. I think that would have worked if they had made it a main event of one of the 2 nights. I think it would have, even the second night, I think it would have absolutely worked because of how strong this is. And it's also proof of how, and also because you've got a Brock Lesnar in there. It's not like this is just 2, untested commodities in there. Brock Lesnar's one of the biggest stars that they've had in the last 15 to 20 years. I mean, it's not like a crapshoot or anything. This is proof that at its best, wrestling does not have to be brain surgery. Okay. We've got a giant monster of a guy, another giant monster of a guy. One's old, one's young. They've never wrestled each other, and they're going to collide and prove who is more powerful. Done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody's on board, and that's that. It's the Hulk versus the Thing. It's Hulk versus Mighty Thor. That's all we don't need. That's all we need. And it's the hottest. I think it's the hottest match on the card.
Yeah, and sticking with kind of the real winners and losers theme, lest we forget, Brock Lesnar was sort of a pariah a few months ago when he came back, right?
And forgotten, crazy.
Yeah, and I think for better or for worse, someone rehabilitated by this angle because he is part of a hot angle that people want to see, that is helping make a new star. Jason, how do you book this match?
I think the only thing that can possibly ruin this at this stage is Brock Lesnar winning, because people will be up in arms about that, and it's not beyond WWE to have him win. But I think the only way
I don't know if I predict it, but I'm like 50-50.
I hope you're wrong, and I hope that Obafemi destroys him, because Brock Lesnar gains nothing from a win here, and Obafemi could be a made man for the next decade by winning defiantly here.
Can I put my fantasy booking hat on? And I think maybe I've earned some respect / vitriol. After
I was going to say, we blame you.
Here's what I would do. Here's what I would do, especially after the promo that happened that we just saw. What I would do is you have Obafemi win the match, not a squash or anything, not like the Goldberg thing, because that's been done. It's got to be a competitive, tough match. But in the end, Femi wins decisively to the point where like Lesnar is out, and Paul Heyman steps over Lesnar's body in the ring and leaves with Obafemi. That's what I would do.
You like to turn people heel, Brian.
He's turning Brock babyface here. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it well, here's what I'm thinking of, and this doesn't negate what you're saying one way or the other. Maybe it even contributes to it, is they've got to be thinking, it does seem like the plan is Brock and Gunther at some point, right?
I know, which scares me, because it makes me think he's got to win this.
Right. Do you have to keep Brock strong for Gunther, or maybe what you're setting up is, do you make Brock sympathetic?
Think about what they did with Cena, because this would be in line with that, and ironically, Lesnar was also involved. For some reason, they had Cena lose to Lesnar right before he lost to Gunther. So I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility that they would have Brock lose to Femi right before he loses to Gunther. I mean, if anything, just to make people think it's going to be the other thing. I don't know.
And there's the argument. I don't know that I believe it, but can you make the argument that Oba, as the new guy, can stand to lose this match and still come out hotter for having been competitive, for making his debut in such a big spot, and pushing Brock to his limit, even if he ultimately loses?
I think for Jason, I don't want to step on you, but I just think for the position that Obafemi's in right now, and where he's just come out and he's a brand new kind of thing, and he's fresh off NXT, if he were to lose this match, there would have to be a lot of shenanigans around it. If it's just Brock Lesnar beats you 1, 2, 3, I think he's very badly harmed by that, because he is not, as impressive as he is not a proven commodity, and I think that would hurt him. I'm not saying he can't lose, but it would have to be some outrageous, crazy thing, Heyman getting involved, something happening where you're coming out of it thinking that Lesnar really shouldn't have won that match. That's the only way that I think he would be okay.
Jason, you agree with that?
Yeah, no, I agree completely with that. I think Obafemi gains nothing with a loss here. I think it can only do him harm. And I think with a win, he is a made man. I really do.
Yeah. Well, let's spend a little more time talking about the other world title match, and that's Jade Cargill and Rhea Ripley. Rhea, one of the biggest stars in the company. On paper, this should be a big deal. I don't know that it feels like a big deal. Another one where I haven't loved the build, and unlike some of these other ones where I don't love the build, but I don't doubt that they could have a good match. I'm really worried what this is going to look like. I mean, I don't know that these two are going to gel together. I mean, some of it is obviously that Jade hasn't given us a lot of reason for confidence in her, and Rhea is terrific, but it just feels like this is potentially a styles clash, and the booking. I'm starting to feel like repeating myself here, but the booking's just been kind of sloppy and all over the place. I don't love it, and this feels like a letdown for one of your biggest stars in the company.
This is another one that started off with the whole worked shoot thing, and the two of them taking really personal shots at each other on Twitter. And someone must have had the good sense to rein them in and say, don't do this, because other wrestlers were starting to chime in on it, and it was getting really bad, and it didn't do any favors.
Yeah, because I think they really were shooting. I don't think, no offense to them, but I don't think they're quite savvy enough to have tried to pull that off as a work. I'm sorry to say. And I think they were just getting out of control. And you don't want to do that. That's not the way you build I know it sounds counterintuitive, but that's not the way you build a wrestling
Tiffany
match.
and Charlotte last year, that ended up being the recipe, and it kind of worked. I mean, it built anticipation for a match that otherwise didn't really have a lot of anticipation.
Yeah, I feel like this is, well, first I want to say that I think that this match wins this is the match that I would most want to be a part of. I'll just say that. If I'm usually against triple threats, but I'd be willing to make an exception. But aside from that, I think what this is WWE.
They may need you in there, Brian, just to carry the match, because I don't know.
I know. I don't want to become the Jerry Lawler of this team, but I'm sorry, I just had to say that. But I think that Jade Cargill, they are now putting her in the deep water, and this is like the sink or swim. Like we were saying, they took so long to pull the trigger with her where you could really feel like there's problems here that they're not talking about, because why would they take so long? They had her in a tag team forever. She didn't have a singles match on TV for like a year, and you really start to feel like something's going on. And then when they had to go over Tiffy, and in such a strong way, you really get the sense like this is them saying, all right, this is it now. We're gonna give you this, and we're gonna see what happens, and this is it. And so I feel like it's a do or die thing where I do feel that Rhea Ripley is good enough and has been around long enough that she can actually probably carry this match and really try to pull it off. I think it could be good. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be some classic or anything, but I don't think it necessarily has to be a train wreck. But I think there's a lot of eyes on this to see if Jade Cargill is worth the investment in the long term.
What I don't think it will be is smooth, right? So,
no.
and that's a difference between Jade and Rhea, where I think Jade can memorize, a well laid out match, and that's sort of what when we've seen her at her best, it's like she remembers all the spots and executes them well enough. But it does feel like she is trying to remember everything. It does feel like, all right, now I do this and now I do this. And so you never get that flow of like what we've seen with Rhea and Io in recent years, where, and that's wrestling at its best, right? Where it's just really kind of smooth throughout the whole match. With Jade can do the moves, but it feels like she's trying really hard. And that's what, I think that's the problem with Jade all these years in, is that she doesn't feel smooth. And Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is one would probably benefit from maybe being a little shorter.
Yeah.
I don't think that you give them 15 minutes or 20 minutes. Maybe you keep it a tight 9 minutes or something like that. And I don't know what you do. I mean, do you have Rhea go over here? Because, and if you do that, and I feel like we've said this a few times, is that officially kind of pulling the plug on the Jade Cargill experiment?
It's an interesting. I don't think it would necessarily be officially doing that, but I do think that they're watching this to see if that is, if they need to sort of start bringing her down. I don't think that her losing necessarily means that's the case. I mean, if it were up to me, I think that she should win. As much of a fan as I am of Rhea Ripley, I think she needs the win. Meaning Jade. I think she really needs this win to come off as a really dangerous heel champion. Like, oh my God, she just beat Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania. I think that would really help her. But she's kind of blowing in the breeze. And like we said before, a lot of times about her, it's eye-opening to think how protected she must have been in AEW. And it makes us understand now, I think, why she was kept away from the main world women's title picture for so long. I think, now we see why. She's gotten better, but I mean, there was only one way to go. I mean, the only way you could go is up. When she first came into WWE, it really felt like she was just standing there and trying to wait for things to happen, but not knowing how to make anything happen. And she's better now, but I just don't know. It's so frustrating because it's like you look at her and everything that she brings to the table and you go, God, I really, really wish this would work. Like if I was the promoter, I'd be going, God, how could this not work? This needs to work. Just look at this person. I mean, she's a superstar, but either you can deliver or you can't.
Who's the guy who?
She's Lex Luger. She's Lex.
I was
Luger.
I think that might be too harsh. Like Luger, I'm thinking of the guy who worked with Brett on that match that was like the Holy Grail. Was it McGee?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Scott McGee.
She's Chris Walker. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, it's like you look great.
Tom McGee.
Yes, Tom McGee. Yeah. I mean, another one. Again, maybe a little unfair, but. He comes to mind because he's going in the Hall of Fame this year. Sid, right? I mean, Sid just looked great. And you look at him and you're like, how could this guy not be, like big money? He just looks like $1 million. And then he had, he had a career and he had plenty of opportunities and main events at world titles. I don't know that he ever had a good match. I mean,
now you're getting me going because what you're saying is how I feel about Luger. Like I know a lot of people feel that way about Sid. I think that Sid was his own worst enemy. I think he really did have all the tools. I honestly think that more could have been done with him, but he sabotaged himself. Whereas I think Luger, God help me, I know the guy's not in a good place, but I just think that he was a very, very limited performer who benefited hugely by how he looked and got chance after chance after chance after chance. I'm sorry, I could go on. Bad promo, couldn't sell, bad in the ring. Like I don't even know what he was good at other than that he just looked really good. He's just proof that if you have $1 million body, you could just get as many chances as you want to get in wrestling, especially at that time. I don't know.
Yeah, and that certainly feels like and maybe she's still I don't know at what point did we stop saying she's young in the sport because
she's like 35 or something.
Yeah,
now, I think.
And now what 5 years? So
it just feels that way because she's progressed so little.
Yeah, and
she's 33. I'm sorry, 33.
And she has wrestled so little as well. I mean,
that's a big issue. Yeah,
people wrestled more and more to try to get better.
Right.
WWE's answer to this was not having her wrestle barely at all. So that may speak to what her limitations are. But Kevin McElvaney and I talked about this the other day. In that the flip side of this, as good as Rhea Ripley is, neither one of us could come up with another example of Rhea having wrestled a really inferior opponent that she really had to carry and guide. Rhea tended to wrestle big matches against the likes of Io Sky and Charlotte Flair and people who are really talented. We struggled to come up with someone who was as limited as Jade that Rhea would really have to carry. And at the same time, who is as big as Rhea, if not bigger. So it's not someone that Rhea can just throw around and she can take bumps and make Rhea look like $1 million or vice versa. So I don't know. It's a tricky one.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we've mentioned Io Sky a few times. She at the as of now, she's not on the card. I mean, I guess they're sort of riding the fence on whether or not they're going to do the Asuka match, and the reporting is that it might depend on the health of Nikki Bella to make the tag team match. If not, they might have to insert Asuka and Kairi Sane in that match, which leaves Io just on the outside looking in. And understand, I feel like to some extent we have this debate every year because the reality is there's only so many spots. With 2 nights, there are more spots, but also you can't get everybody on the show. That said, I mean, Io has been like the MVP of the last couple of WrestleManias. It's almost unthinkable that she'd just be left off the card altogether. I mean, I don't doubt that in a pinch, maybe she's like in Rhea's corner for this match. But that we're not going to get an Io match seems like a real shame.
Yeah, I think that's a real waste. I think she's the best women's wrestler the WWE have on the main roster. Yeah. And she has got to the point where she is so popular now as well with crowds that leaving her off the card seems like a missed opportunity there. I would much rather see Io and anyone rather than see Becky and AJ Lee.
Yeah.
I would just for those 2 ladies.
It's interesting because it really does show how many great people they have there, that even on a 2-night show there are going to be glaring people that are left off. There's someone else I was thinking of.
She's the only big. Who else is not on the card?
You know what, I don't think there's a tag team title match. Are Damian Priest and R-Truth on there?
Oh, that's a good one. No,
I don't think they are.
But you know what, I don't feel like
but they're champions,
those guys are or not. Yeah, but look at WrestleMania over the last several years, and if anything, it's rare that there's a tag team title match at Mania, and these last few years they try to make SmackDown almost the 3rd night of WrestleMania. I mean, kind of a pre-show WrestleMania SmackDown. They'll do the Battle Royal, that kind of thing. So I expect they probably defend the title. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't want to give up any real estate at WrestleMania for a Damian Priest R-Truth match. Any of the new Bloodline guys, what do they call that?
MFTs.
Yeah, no, I mean, or the Wyatt. I mean, I honestly, I don't have a problem with any of those people. With all due respect, being left off, but the reality is none of those acts are terribly over. So it's fine. As far as surprises, you guys counting on anything? We know Cena is hosting. I expect Danhausen to be all over this thing. This is their new plaything, and they seem to be in love with him. What else? I in terms of returns, I don't know. Bianca. I don't know who else there is.
What about Braun? Is that out of the question? I don't
Braun,
know
sure,
right?
Yeah. I mean, does he get involved in the Seth match or the Obafemi match? Who knows? Yeah. That's one. Steve Austin, these kind of guys that they bring out for these kind of things. Any chance of The Rock being there? I mean, I feel like last year everybody was expecting it. This year it doesn't feel like he's expected to be there.
I would say there is a chance, if anything, just for that reason alone.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll confront Cena and they'll actually explain what they were trying to do last year, because we still don't know what that was about.
Yeah, bring up Travis Scott.
Yeah.
That'll get over.
Don't.
Yeah.
How about no?
Anything else? Real quick, we touched on it in the last podcast. We haven't talked to Jason about it. Any thoughts on the Hall of Fame and this year's class? You got Stephanie, AJ Styles, Demolition. That's the one I'm most excited about. And Dennis Rodman. Who else is in there? Sid, Bad News Brown, Hogan, and Andre going in. I think that's pretty good.
I think it's a great Hall of Fame. All of those people there, even Bad News Brown, like that's someone from my childhood that I remember watching. Like, that's a great choice. Demolition is who I'm most excited for. It is long.
Yeah, that was one of the last real glaring omissions was Demolition.
Yeah. Because people, I've said this before, but people used to always like to dump on the WWE Hall of Fame, and I just think every year that goes by, the less reason you have to do that. I mean, they've righted all the wrongs. You could always say it took too long for this or that and the other, but they've really worked hard to right the wrongs. Demolition, it's so interesting to me because they're an example. They're like the Ultimate Warrior to me, and I mean this as a compliment, Al, in the sense that when you look at them, especially people that weren't around, they go, well, they were only there a few years. But it's a testament to the impact that they made in a short amount of time. What, 3 years they were together? And then that's even including when Crush was there, I think, with them. But it's like during that time, they were one of the top acts. I mean, they were huge. And not only that, but even looking at, I know officially it's not about this, but looking at their whole career, I mean, they both had Hall of Fame careers. Bill Eadie, you can make a case that he should go in even if Demolition didn't exist, because the guy did so much and he was the mass superstar and the Mongols and everything else. So, I mean, that is something that needed to happen. Stephanie McMahon, look, I'm sorry, go on.
No, well on Demolition, real quick. I mean, they always have to carry like this burden of being Road Warriors ripoffs. But I do, that was what they were at the outset, but clearly they did so much with that. I mean, they really became their own thing. As you touched on, I mean, one of the things that really made it work, and there were other ones. I mean, Powers of Pain, and you know, they weren't the only Road Warriors ripoffs.
You see, to me,
they were great workers, right? I mean, like
they were much better workers.
And at a time where work rate was not valued in WWE, you had these two guys who were just supposed to be sort of like, you know, bruisers, smash mouth, but were sort of quietly having really good matches, you know, because they were so good at what they did. And it's a shame that whatever litigation and feuds and whatever kept them out this long. I'm glad that they're both alive, you know, to do this, because this is exactly the kind of, you know, you see it with Sid. It's such a shame. I mean, why couldn't they do this a few years earlier? So I'm happy that Bill Eadie and Barry Darsow should, you know, Jason, real quick to you on Demolition. Should Crush be part of it?
Ooh, tricky one.
I'm gonna say just yes. Why not? I mean, like he's dead, you know, like give it to him.
Crush as a performer was had a decent enough run in several different gimmicks in WWE that probably warrants inclusion in the Hall of Fame more than a lot of other people who are in there. So I've got no problem if Crush went into it too. I don't think that's what they're doing, but
no, it's not. It's not. They're not.
No, he's officially not getting in. And
I think the reasoning, if I'll play devil's advocate, the reasoning behind this might be that Crush represented when the downward slide of the team. So why would you induct the guy who actually represented when they weren't good anymore, which basically he did. I mean, it was sort of like when they were running out of steam. I'm not saying I agree with not putting it in, but I could understand why, you know. And the thing about them being great workers, that to me, especially looking back on them, that's like the best way to describe them. They were the Road Warriors if the Road Warriors were really good in the ring. I mean,
better than the Road Warriors.
They were better in the ring, bell to bell, than the Road Warriors. They really were. And you know, you had the very seasoned guys, especially Bill Eadie. I keep saying that, but I mean, that guy had been around for like 15 years and he was really good. And Barry Darsow, as we know, he was Crusher Khrushchev, Barry Darsow in the Russians, and he was great as a part of that. And like those guys were really good. Hawk and Animal, they got to be really good, but they had to feel their way together as a team. You watch early, I mean, WWE Vault put one of those Omni cards on from '83, and they're on there, and they're just bad. Like, there's no other way to describe it. They're bad. And they were coasting on the gimmick, and then they grew into it. But Demolition was great from the word go. So, yeah, I could totally see it.
Yeah. Any thoughts on any of the others, Jason? Stephanie, I assume is the headliner. I mean, I don't know if that's the best idea to close it with her.
I'm not the best person to ask because I love Stephanie McMahon and always.
I think she absolutely merits a place in the Hall of Fame. You know,
I don't know if she headlines. I think they might actually go with AJ Styles as the headliner. I
think it'd be the smart thing to do.
Fun kind of send off. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Stephanie one. I'm glad Sid's going in. You know, Sid was a big time player in the wrestling business for quite a period of time. For a man with limited, abilities, he really did well for himself and is an iconic name and deserves to go in. Absolutely, he does.
Not to prolong this conversation, Brian, but who is left? I mean, in terms of like omissions, who's at the top of your wish list? I mean, one name that I think about a lot is Rick Martel, who is a great, still looks really good. And again, I just feel like do it while these guys are around and are there to have that moment.
Sid was a big omission for me, and now that's been corrected, and so was Demolition. I really feel like of these prime eras, like the Hulkamania era, and attitude. It's very hard now to find people. Obviously, The Rock, you know that's going to happen one day. That needs to happen. That's a big one. But I mean, I would have
Bundy, you know,
Bundy
headliner.
Yes, Bundy is a big one. I also think, and this is tougher because some of the big names from before Vince, I just think the odds of them going in now are getting dimmer and dimmer and dimmer. Like Ivan Koloff was a must and he went in, but there are people that were major stars of the 70s, like Spiros Arion and Waldo Von Erich, big headliners in the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, like major stars that should go in, but I just don't know if there's anybody left there who even remembers them. You know, there are some people like that.
Well, you know, Triple H is as good a person to have at the helm for those kind of guys as anybody, because he is a student of the game and he was brought up by that generation. And I don't know that some of the people you're mentioning might not already be in. I mean, like they've done them like, you know, at 10 at a time into that legacy Hall of Fame. So,
well, those two definitely aren't. Spiros Arion and Waldo Von Erich definitely are not. I mean, Waldo Von Erich like has the record. I think he wrestled Bruno Sammartino more times than anybody. Like him and Gorilla Monsoon are right up there. He's not well remembered today. There's a lot of people like that from that time. I think Victor Rivera should go in. But I mean, it's almost like I think they need sort of like a special committee of old farts that are going to look at people from that far back, you know, that need to go in, like pre-Hogan.
Still around, you know.
There's some pre-Hogan people.
Slaughter. I mean, they've got the Michael Hayes. Those all.
Jim Cornette needs to go in. You know.
Yeah. Oh yes, the Midnight Express and Jim Cornette. And that's a shame. Now they're both gone. The original, the Midnights.
Yeah. Well, you still got Stan Lane, who I guess could go up there and accept with Cornette.
Yes.
The tricky thing is, you know, expanding the definition. You know, is it the wrestling? Because Midnight,
but the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the Rock and Roll Express went in.
Don't get me started. NXS got snubbed last night.
The fact of the Rock and Roll Express going in though makes me think the Midnight Express needs to.
Yeah. You know, how much do they want to be the pro wrestling Hall of Fame? And you know, they headlined with Sting one year, which was barely had any WWE.
But I think that is more of what the legacy wing is for. You know, if you're not confident having a Hall of Fame that's going to be, you know, headlined by somebody like that, that's what legacy is for, you know, outside the company. Look, when they started inducting people like Abdullah the Butcher and things like that, the doors were open. Nick Bockwinkel went in. I was there the year that happened. And even the first time I remember that they did something was when they put in Harley Race long ago, and you knew it wasn't for being the king. I mean, you know what I mean? Like that really wasn't the main reason he was going in. Yeah. And there were a lot of, that's when they started doing that more and more. And so I think there is room for that kind of thing. It just, you know, maybe in the Legacy Hall of Fame, the people outside the periphery of WWE itself.
Yeah. What are you guys' plans for watching Mania? Night one, actually, I don't think I'm going to watch live. I got to take my kid to a freestyle wrestling thing in Philly, so I may be watching something on my phone. Night two, I'm going to watch it in a movie theater, which is the first time like going. I always wanted, like, you know, I get sort of like nostalgic for the closed circuit TV days, and I lament that I never got like the closed circuit TV experience for WrestleMania. So looking forward to seeing it in the movie theater, not too far away. How about you guys?
Well, first of all, I give up on watching the Hall of Fame live. I can't do it. I mean,
all of Mania. They're
running it at midnight. I mean, they just gave up on having an acceptable like nationwide time slot. Night one, I'll definitely be watching beginning to end. Night two, I've got stuff going on in the afternoon. I'm going to be rushing back.
Not
home.
Easter, at least this time.
Right? No. I went nuts last year over that. No, it's not Easter this year, but I got something going on with my son during the day, and we're going to be like rushing to get back.
That's the thing about 2 nights is like, you know, you got to carve out an entire weekend. Yeah.
And the thing is, I'm trying to say this low because I think he's in the next room, but night two is starting, I think, with Brock Lesnar and Omafemi, which is the match he's most looking forward to.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure we get back in time.
They're smart to open that.
Yeah.
How about you, Jason? What time is it over?
Yeah, I will do what every, you know, masochistic European wrestling fan does, and we'll sit up until 4 a.m.
You guys are used to it, you know.
That's, although I have to say I'm 40 now, and it is getting harder and harder to do. I have booked a day off work on Monday just to kind of recover from the weekend from it. So I will.
When does it start for you?
So it'll start, I think it's 11 p.m.
It's 6 p.m. Eastern for us.
Yeah, so 11. So 11.
Oh my God.
11 p.m. So, and it'll drag on to 4 or 5, maybe. I don't know. So
yeah,
I'll give it my best shot and see, and then regret it the next day.
Yeah, it's like when they do the Australia shows, or I remember getting up in the middle of the night to see a Brock takes Tokyo or something like that many years ago. So like that's what you have to deal with every time.
I've kind of gotten my own back with all of the European PLEs that they've done recently, so that's been nice for me on a personal level.
Yeah, and you'll get more, it sounds like. All right, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Well, before we go, Jason, anything you want to plug you got going on in the next issue or anything else?
Yeah, look, we're hard at work on the next issue now without giving too much away, but will be our Supercards issue that we're doing. So a lot of the big events that have been happening lately and are coming up will be in that. So again, just keep an eye out on the PWI social media pages, pwi-online.com. You can subscribe to the PWI weekly newsletter, as you mentioned, Al. So yeah, a lot of good things going on there.
And Brian, what do you want to talk about here?
Well, there's my podcast. I'm always happy to drive people there. It's Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian R. Solomon, which is a wrestling history podcast. I just ran an interview I did years ago with Flying Fred Curry, the son of Wild Bull Curry, who just passed away last week. And I had an archived interview with him. I do stuff like that. I've got Jerry Briscoe coming on very soon to talk about his brother Jack and his NWA world title run. So that's Shut Up and Wrestle. You can find it wherever you get your podcast. And there's also the Patreon, patreon.com/Shut Up and Wrestle. If you're looking for more stuff, go to that.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. Brian will probably do a quicker turnaround than usual to talk about Mania next week. If you're around, we'll figure something out.
Sure, as long as it's not like right after the show in the middle of the night.
No, it will not be.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, guys, everybody, enjoy the show, and we will be back soon.